Hello, Sentinel Views. My name is Wendell Nolan, and it's a pleasure being back. We got a new section we're getting ready to start. It's going to call, I don't know what we're going to call it, because we're not trying to get any copyright infringement thing going. So we have Bo Blanton here. I wanted to use Bo Knows, but he told me that that might be already taken. So we'll find something that's going to be cute, because he's not going to have me around once he learns the ropes around here. He's going to kick me to the curb. I'll find something else to do though. So we have Bo Blanton. How you doing, Bo?
Good to be here.
Did I hear you for having me? Thank you, audience. Bo, tell me a little bit. Let me tell you a little bit about Bo Blanton, because he's so modest. You know, he don't like saying too much about himself. But I've known him ever since I was 3 years old. My mom used to be with them, and so she would come and work every once in a while, and I would run into Bo. And he was just little, and I was little. But now we just two old dudes.
That's a good. There you go, two old dudes.
And so if you fast forward, we were playing. I was playing basketball at Somerville, and you was football star, superstar, y'all. That's right.
Well, you know what? The teams is only as good as the guys around you, and I was very fortunate to have the Jerome Bryants and Ricky Blakes, Otis Tuckers. They made a big difference.
Mm-hmm. So, what got you into football?
Well, my father was a coach, and he coached at Somerville. Believe it or not, it was John McKissick, Buford Blanton, and Nolan McCurry. Right? That's a long time ago, and I just hung around I was always at the field, always at the coaches' offices, and just really got into it that way, and just fell in love with it.
Mm-hmm. You got into football, and he was the quarterback at Clemson. That was national champions.
Well, they were, and one of my road roomies, Homer Jordan, was the quarterback, and just a great player.
Did you get the ring?
Oh, I got the ring. Yes, I got the ring.
So you was. Hey, man.
The older I get, the more it looks like I was part of more of it, though.
Well, hey, that's true with everything that we do now. And so you went to Clemson, and then what was your major?
I majored in Parks Recreation, and then I also had a minor in horticulture. Mm-hmm. And then I went to grad school in psychology.
Is that right?
Well, my thinking was after college, maybe if I wanted to go into coaching, instead of getting a teaching degree, maybe I could be a guidance counselor. That's what I thought.
Why didn't you decide to get
a
teaching degree?
I had a call-in from Dad to come back and work at the golf course, and started working there. And so my horticultural background helped me out a little bit there. Really needed to be more agronomy. But, you know, I was learning on the job and been there now for over, I guess, 40 years.
That's great. It's nothing better than being in a family business.
Well, it's not. You know, the dad's the boss, and that can be tough. That can be tough. But he's always been fair and treat us all equal, and, you know, but he's expected the most out. Just like when I was playing football and baseball, he expected you to do what was right, not only on the field, but off the field. And as a father, that's how I was too.
So tell me some of the other things that you've done. At one time you were the voice of the Somerville Green Leagues?
I did the radio for a long time. I used to say I would do it as long as Coach was coaching. Coach McKissick was coaching, and it got to the point where I don't know if I can keep doing it. He was still coaching strong, and over the years I watched the Somerville program evolve. If you remember Somerville football a long time ago, it was 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and everybody thought that's the way Coach McKissick would always coach. Well, he started, you know, he would play to the strength of the players.
Right.
If you had a quarterback that could throw, we were going to throw the football. If you had a running back that you couldn't stop, we were going to run the football. And I really appreciated that in Coach McKissick. I think a lot of people didn't realize how good he was as far as moving with the times.
I remember Coach McKissick didn't only look out for the football players, but he looked out for me as well. I remember when I was playing basketball, and he would lead me in the right place. He said, "Well, let me tell you something, Wendell." He said, "I don't care what you do, you have to go to college prep, because when you finish Somerville, you're going to college." And so he took me aside, and Coach Frank Cooter, and then Buzzy Dunning came a little later. Buzzy Dunning was I love Coach Cooter, and I love Buzzy, but for different reasons. Coach Cooter, he was like, well, you know, he was just like, you know, that encourager. He always encouraged, like, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. And Coach Dunning, he said, well, if you know how to do this, he used to tell me, he said, I coach World Be Free. And he said, let me show you this move I taught World Be Free. And, you know, that just was something special. And I know that with Coach McKissick, he probably taught you a lot of.
Well, his big thing was being a leader, and being a leader is much more than just being a good player. It's doing what you're supposed to do on the football field and doing what you're supposed to do in the classroom and then outside of the classroom. When I was on the school board, he was one of the pushes that said, you know, you do need to give back, you know. And that's how I felt. I felt like Dorchester District 2, did a lot for me as far as education and as far as growing up. And yeah, I agree. It was time to give back, and so I spent 16 years on the school board.
That's right. Then you decided to leave the school board, but he was the chairman of the school board for a little while.
Yeah, I was. I had some really great people. Carolyn Howard really showed me the ropes, and she was there when my father was on the school board. She went through with him and with me, and she always said, "No, you're good." She said, "But your dad was a whole lot more fun." So
but you know, the funny thing is, we get older. You know, isn't it a funny thing when you see some of the people that you know personally, and their names going on these buildings and these schools and stuff like that? What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's one thing Somerville has been known for. You know, the people that, if you go around and you see the names on some of these schools, they're people that grew up here, gave back, put it in there, and stayed. It's one of the things, if you want to start talking about Somerville and its growth, it's you know, there's not a lot of new people in the town of Somerville because they come here and they stay. And so really most of the growth is surrounding. And when you start talking about like Somerville High School, and you know, a lot of people say, well, if Somerville still had, you know, all those kids, they would be, you know, still up there with the Burns and Dormans. But there's so few opportunities. You know, when you talk about 3,000 kids and only 5 can play on a basketball team at one time, you know, there's a lot of kids missing out. And so when you added these other high schools, the Fort and Ashley Ridge, it gave more opportunities. And I thought it was a great direction. And I'm thinking, you know, down the road there's going to be a 4 somewhere, as fast as we're growing.
Now, some of those 4,000 students, right?
Well, no, it's dropped down now. It was way up there, but Somerville is down under 3 now.
3?
And they're all pretty close. Ashley Ridge, you know, and Ashley Ridge obviously is growing out that way, and then Fort's, they still got room out there.
So 3 is about the max?
3 should be, yeah, and that's a lot of kids in the school. But when you start talking about that many kids and opportunities, to be on a baseball team of only 9 players playing at one time, football 11 on both sides. You know, you like to have more opportunities because the more kids are involved in sports, the better they do in school. They keep focused. You keep them in school, and so whether it be the band, cheerleading, any of that stuff, to keep them involved, it makes a big difference.
I was thinking about that when, you know, when not you because you went to Clemson, but when I got to the Citadel and Charleston Southern. You know, my high school was bigger than
Yes, yeah.
It's a funny thing,
you know. When you go into the buildings, you know, it was like, good gosh, you know, and it was terrifying when class would change with the number of people in the halls at times. Yeah, it wasn't anything like you go to college and, you know, you'd have maybe 12 to 15 in an English class. Yeah. And those, you know, you're looking 20, 25. Yeah. And it's just, sometimes it's difficult to learn. It's,
yeah, but the hard thing was, you know, I went to law school a couple of years across the University of South Carolina, and then you talk about 150, 200 people in class, you'd say, oh man, we got a lot of people, and everybody waiting around to see who's going to get barbecued today. Professor get on you and do that Socratic method, and then he stayed on you and barbecued the whole time. You done sweat the whole class. Well, that's enough of that.
Well, you know, most of those classes, like biology classes in college, you know, you're in the auditoriums, and you know, it's almost like a movie theater, and you just it's just full of people, and you know, and you have to keep focused. You got to think like, well, God, there's so many people. She'll never know if I'm not here today. Well, yeah, they do.
Yeah,
the way it comes back on you is, you know, when you get that first grade, you go, I should have been in class a little bit more.
Well, tell me a little bit. Whilst we're doing this, a part of this program is going to be people that we know. And the other part of this program is going to be about sports because we are big in sports. And so we want to do a little bit of sports stuff before we leave here. I was asking Bo, I said, well, what should we talk about? And I said, how about talking about quarterbacks, since you know so much about quarterbacks? When is it time for a quarterback to retire?
You know, one of the things that a coach or a former player will tell you, be prepared when that time comes. You're not going to be a football player, much less a quarterback, forever. What are you going to do after that's over? Are you going to be prepared? I mean, for me, it was the college level, and that was it. You know, for some, it's college and on to pros. And so, you know, you talk about Brady, you know, most probably the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Right. When is the right time for him? And I do think it's up to one person. You know, it's you know, when Manning just retiring.
All of them.
Yeah, they're retiring. But you know, their quarterbacks they're a little bit, they last a little bit longer than a lot of players. They don't get beat up as much.
Right.
And so really it's as long as you're competitive and you're enjoying the game, yeah, that's stay in it for as long as you want to. You know, Tom Brady, you know, I would hope that he doesn't go to another team. It's so, I think it's really a good thing when you stay with the same program the whole time you're there.
Right.
And with Tom Brady, I mean, he's still very effective.
Yeah, and so it's very important as a team to have the right people around you.
Without a question. I mean, it's as we said, your linemen, offensively and defensively, you don't hear a lot of it. More so defense now. Defensive linemen get a little bit because they're making big play sacks and everything. But offensive linemen, their job is tough. But those guys are smart. They're making calls on the line of scrimmage. They get beat up pretty good each game, and they never get any recognition that they should. And as a quarterback, without those guys, you're nothing.
And so, who are some of the people who played with you in offense?
Well, Jack Mazzell, Terry Mazzell. Let's see. There's so many. Robbie Kimberlin. There's so many named David Bounds. David Bounds was a Shrine Bowler and high school All-American that went to Clemson and hurt his knee and tried to come back too soon. And when he did, it hurt his back. And but he was a great one. And totally dedicated to the sport. And what he did, the coaches liked him so much. Coach Ford liked him so much. He kept him on as kind of like his assistant.
Is that right?
And then he went on to work for McClellan as an assistant. And then he went with McClellan. I think they went to Southern Mississippi. And he worked there. And so he's done a little bit of everything with sports. But if you remember David was just a good person and a really good football player, and unfortunately he got hurt. That going back to what we said to kind of follow up, it doesn't last forever. He was one that could have played college ball and could have gone on to the pros.
Now we might have cut some of this out, so we want to make sure that you acknowledge some of those receivers and some of those running backs you had.
The first one I can remember, he wasn't my receiver, but the first one I can remember being just unbelievable was Harry Blake. Harry Blake holds the record for the 100-yard dash in South Carolina, and that record he'll hold forever because now it's the 100-meter. But Harry, I think, ran 9.4, 9.5,
right?
And but when he became a receiver then became a glamorous position at Somerville. And so from that, the ones that I worked with, Tom Slauson, Mark Slauson, Gary Hartman, and Fred Worthy, those guys. Gary Hartman, got me to Clemson. He's responsible for me getting a scholarship because there's a lot of passes that most probably shouldn't have been completed that he caught. And I can remember one time I was throwing one out of bounds to kill the clock. He caught it in bounds.
Is that right?
So it was stuff like that he did, and he's continued to be a good friend. My whole team, Jerome Bryant, Ricky Blake, we've stayed good friends. And I was so appreciative of. I was very lucky to have Jerome, Ricky, Otis. Those guys were great players.
And I get a chance to play with Gary Hartman even when we play tennis, and he saves me a lot, because he likes running. He might put on a couple pounds, so I don't know if he can run as fast as he used to. But I'm telling you one thing, boy, he can cover both sides of the court. He's
competitive too, isn't he? Jeez, he don't like to lose.
One thing about when you get our age, boy, you don't be competitive. I like playing old man tennis. You know that I carry about 5 cans of balls with me.
Well, you took me out. We went out one time. We were hitting, and I'd had my hips replaced, and you kept telling me. You said, we're just going to hit it back and forth."
That's right. And you wanted to hey. I said, "Man, wait a second now. I don't want to hit it that hard." But
we've, as a group, we've grown up together and we've stayed together, right, and that's what's important.
Well, one thing, y'all, we get ready to go. With Bo, and Bo's going to be back after a while. He's going to kick me off this show, so that's all right. I'll find someplace else to hang around here. But it's been very interesting. You don't know what we can talk about next, but I know it's going to be interesting. So for Bo Blanton, this is Wendell Nolan. We get ready to sign off. Say bye, Bo.